Hello, everyone, and welcome to the City of North Plains City Council regular session meeting, Monday, September the 19th, 2022 at 7:01. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mayor Linehan,
Here.
Councillor Page,
Here.
Councillor Kendall.
Here.
Councillor Martinez here, Councillor Pittman here, Councillor Sheldon,
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. Tonight, we have the approval of the September 19th City Council regular session agenda. And we also have the approval of the September 6th City Council minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that we need to be aware of? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda.
A second. We have a motion on the table by Councilor Martinez, seconded by Councilor Papin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Item 6 is public comment. This is the time that we wish folks to speak, come before us and speak on things, matters that are not on our agenda. And currently I have 2 letters that I do need to read into the public record that were received. One in the mail, one via email. Before I read them though, I do want to ask if there's anyone online on the Zoom call that wishes to speak during this public comment period. Let the record show that no one is speaking during this time. And there's no one here in Jesse Mays in the public for public comment. So I received 2 letters. The first was an email from a Francine Cotton in North Plains. And she writes, let's see, this was September 19th today. I would like to address the homeless man that's been sitting on the bench on Glencoe Road for the past few weeks. I would like to know what the city's policy rules are on houseless individuals in North Plains. A houseless person has been occupying 2 benches along Glencoe Road. We consistently observe him sleeping on the bench, relieving himself in open public, and at times causing a huge trash mess around the areas they occupy. Neighbors, myself included, have seen him urinating and exposing himself otherwise. Why would our city officials let someone sit on the main arterial leading to our downtown business district and set this tone? We must have regulations and hold individuals accountable, houseless or not. I personally reported incidents to the non-emergency dispatch, and there was never a response or a return call. Our neighborhoods, community, and business areas should be monitored more diligently. Our appointed city leaders need to be more proactive in these instances and help keep North Plains clean, safe, and walkable for all. Again, Francine Cotton. And as we just experienced, we are doing our part best that we can with what we have. And I think we're trying to move forward in a smart and efficient way to try to work around the state laws and whatnot. So we'll somehow circle back around with her and let her know what we're doing. The second one came as a letter, and it is signed anonymous, and it reads, subject, homeless people in our city. Dear Terry, A few people have been calling you that have come to me about their concerns. I advise them to include suggestions for possible solutions with their concerns. They all tell me that they don't have any solutions. Can you imagine that? If I may give a few suggestions, Terry, I would like to offer a few suggestions. When I was officially claimed to be an expert witness by the lawyers in downtown Portland while I was a critical care nurse at the VA Medical Center, I worked for the lawyers, audited charts for legal cases, and in return, they taught me legal proceedings, laws, etc. One of the important points taught was timing. If a city compliance is to be instituted, it would have to be implemented before the real problem existed. A lawyer can draw up an ordinance. The real potential problem is people loitering in front of the bus lines where our children catch buses and walk to school every day, i.e. the bench that a gentleman is sleeping on in front of Subway. There needs to be a city ordinance that states no night camping loitering. The city of Portland has instituted this ordinance. This particular gentleman was confronted by our NPCC members, but he states he won't move and he does not want any help besides he has plenty of money. However, he is doing more harm than good because he's advertising for more homeless people from Portland to come and sleep on the streets of North Plains. We as homeowners are proud of everything that you have done as mayor of our town, Terry, really proud. We have a homeless person living in our home for the past 4 years, and he is going to the same church as Ricky Smith, who is our council member of North Plains. This is one big success story. We will be looking forward to your toughest solutions for keeping North Plains clean and green. Thank you, Terry, signed anonymous. So we'll enter these into public record. I'll give these to Lori. And we can certainly swing back again with Ms. Cotton, but the other person, hopefully, I don't know if they're online or they'll listen to our meeting minutes via YouTube and possibly hear what we are doing. All right, next on our agenda, we have the presentation, which is the August 2022 broadband feasibility study results. Who's taking this? Andy, Dave,
Yeah, is Bill in the room?
Bill?
I am in the room. Hello there.
Throw you under the bus. Yeah. Bill, why don't you go ahead because you're very involved in this. We'll be able to hear you a lot better. But this was a survey that went out in August. I'm just recapping that.
Right. So actually, we go to that point. Yeah. So we retained Uptown Consulting Services to survey our community, our residents, to see what they think about their current existing internet connection. If they have high-speed broadband, what services they have, how they feel about that service, how they feel about the cost of that service, what they think is missing, and for the purposes of understanding whether or not the city of North Plains has the opportunity to be involved in investing in some kind of city broadband infrastructure for broadband service for its residents and current and future residents and businesses. Dave from Uptown is going to provide an overview of the findings of that survey. We retained them to do basically one of two parts of a normal feasibility study. The first being, what's the market demand or market need out there of North Plains residents, potentially for broadband services with city involvement. And then based on those market findings, those demand findings will likely, but we'll hear what the results are. The next step would be to commission their firm to go forward and look at the financial feasibility of a business operating model, given what the market findings are.
So it's a two-stage process, but we're going to hear about the community needs and community feedback from Dave this evening in the first phase of that process. So I'll turn it over to you, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Stockton. I'm principal with Uptown Services, and we are a boutique consulting firm. We specialize in municipal broadband, and we've been doing this for over 25 years. So as Bill mentioned, and Bill, is this on the screen there? Do I need to share my screen?
It's not on the screen, so you should be able to share your screen.
Are you seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll be pretty brief tonight. As Bill just mentioned, this is really a first phase of what would normally be a full feasibility study. And we focused on the three tasks you see here on the slide. And that would be looking at current infrastructure, looking at product strategy and what offerings are on the market today, and then the market research survey, which we'll spend the most time talking about tonight. In addition to that, if you decide to proceed to phase two, we would be looking at the types of business models that would be available to you and what those look like and what we'd recommend. Then looking at a sample design to very carefully estimate the capital budget required to construct a network like this. And then finally, all the financial analysis around that to determine financial feasibility. So tonight, we're really going to focus on the market research. What we did is we conducted a survey, both on the phone as well as online. We had 419 households complete, so that's a pretty strong percentage relative to the community. And in addition, we asked for participants to conduct a speed test if they were at home and they were taking the survey. And we had about half participants agree to take that speed test, and I'll show you that data. So what I want to do is we're just going to go through a sampling and kind of hit the highlights of what work has been done so far. And I wanted to focus on these 6 kind of strategic questions that you probably have as, you know, community leaders around how important is this for the community? What do residents looking for? Is there areas for improvement? What does that all look like? So let's tackle these questions and start with what broadband services could be offered and what does pricing probably look like. So this is what we think you'd be looking at. On the left here, you see the internet tier. So 1 gig, that's 1,000 megabits per second. That's symmetrical, so the same speed down as well as up. Next up could be 2 gig and then 4 gig. In terms of pricing, let me start with the standard price, $60 for a gig internet. Typically with municipal broadband, it's typically in a $60 to $70 price range. We tested both those price points, and I'll show you that in a minute here. But to the left of that, you'll see monthly price for ACP eligible. And I'll talk more about ACP, but that's the Affordable Connectivity Program. And it's a subsidy by the federal government that reduces the price by $30. So the end user gets that savings, and that payment from the federal government is made to the internet service provider that's providing that program to the community. So any household that income qualifies for the ACP program would be getting a $30 1 gig service. The other thing that we're seeing with municipal broadband is that the policies and the terms are more friendly, if you will. So for example, Comcast uses data caps. We would recommend that there is no data cap and there's no term contract or anything of that nature. And that's typically how broadband is offered within a municipal environment. So looking at speed, we did this 2 ways. We asked the participant to state what speed they were subscribing to, and then later on in the survey, we actually tested the speed. So with stated download speed, we see that 31% of households state that they subscribe to greater than 100 meg. But the majority are at 100 meg and less if you look at download speed. The other thing we looked at is what kind of speed is being subscribed to by income. And so if you look at the chart on the right, you can see income up to 25,000, 25 to 50 on up. And then you can see the speed tier range that that household is subscribing to. So the orange is the lowest tier at 25 to 50 meg, then blue 100 to 400 meg, and then the green at 1 gig. And you can see that there is a shift among lower income households to take less internet, if you will, in terms of the capacity that they're going to pay for. And we'll revisit that one in a second too. Then we had the speed test. The orange is the download speed that was recorded, and then the red column is the upload. The median download speed was 116 meg, so pretty consistent with what we saw in the stated speed. And the median upload speed was 18 meg, so highly asymmetrical. Typically with fiber broadband, you have symmetrical service, so the download speed is the same as the upload speed. But in this case, it's pretty asymmetrical. How satisfied are residents with their internet service? So we asked about internet, and we asked on 5 different dimensions: satisfaction with price, service, speed, reliability, and then just overall. The scale was 1 to 10, with 10 being very, very satisfied. And you can see the median scores by each attribute of their internet service. So overall, 6.5 satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. Not great, kind of average for what we typically see with incumbents in this industry. They tend to score pretty low overall in satisfaction compared to other industries, but pretty average to low. The other way that we like to look at this is what % of households are really, really happy with the service and rating it a 9 or a 10. And you can see the percentages there, and that ranges from a low of just 3% on service to a high of 19% on reliability. But again, typically only about 1 in 10 households are really, truly satisfied with service. What aspects of current internet services do residents feel need to be improved? So we asked this question: what would you like to see most improved from your current broadband services? And you can see the options on the left. And it's very common in most markets, we see 2 themes emerge. One is lower prices, and the other is increased internet speed. And the consumer market, or the residential market's not homogeneous, so there are some segments that think price is more of an issue for them, and some segments that think speed and more capacity is more important to them. And we see that here too. So if we look at the total sample, which is the red bars, it's pretty close, but lower prices, 33% participants said that was the most important need to improve, and then 26% said it was speed. If we look only at participants in the survey that were very interested and said they would subscribe to this service if it were offered, that's represented in the orange bars. And there you can see that speed becomes much more important among that subset of the community that is most interested in an offering like this. Oops. And perceptions of internet speed, we also asked them, what would your ideal download speed be? And that's that chart on the left. You can see that 30% of households state their ideal internet speed would be 1 gig or higher. And we're not doing this with a price point. I'll get to a price point question in a minute here. And then if we, again, look at only those who are really interested in subscribing, that would be the red columns and the green columns. And you can see again that that interest in more capacity goes up even higher. So there is a stated desire for higher speeds compared to that typical 100 meg median that we saw earlier. And then there's also now, and this wasn't always the case, we've been doing these surveys for 20 years now, but the little chart on the right asks about the importance of upload speed. And over time, that has become much more important today, where the vast majority of households now say that upload speed is somewhat or very important to them. How affordable is broadband? And do some households underspend due to budget constraints? So we asked the question on the left, question 9, to the extent to which there was agreement with the following statement: I subscribe to a lower speed internet service than I would like to in order to save money. And surprisingly, we had 60% of participants state that they somewhat or strongly agreed with that statement. So there is some underspending compared to the need or the want that's happening in the market due to affordability. Then the other thing we asked about is affordable connectivity programs. I'll talk in more detail about the new federal program that's around this, but there have been subsidy programs and discounts in the market for some time now that are available for those households that qualify. So we asked question 11, does your internet provider offer a discounted internet service for households who qualify due to lower income? Well, the correct answer is yes. Both incumbents do offer this program, but only 1 in 4 households stated yes. So there's a lot of lack of awareness about affordable connectivity support and discounts that are available for households that would otherwise qualify for it. And that's nothing that's only happening in North Plains. That's in general, that's an issue that we see. And it's certainly true in your community as well, where most households aren't aware of these programs. So the Affordability Connect program is a newer program. It's been around just under a year now. And with some of the increased federal spending and budget allocations to broadband, both infrastructure and other aspects, $14 billion has been set aside to provide a subsidy for low-income homes using the internet. And basically the way it works is if you're an internet provider and you participate in that program and offer it to your customers, for every internet tier you offer, you discount it by $30 and you get subsidized, the internet provider gets subsidized or reimbursed by the federal program. You can see the qualification criteria here. The poverty level threshold is at 200% of the federal poverty line. So if you are 200% or less, you qualify for the program, and it does range depending on household size. So we looked at your income census distribution. We'd estimate that about 1 in 8 or 15% of households in North Plains would qualify for this program. What providers would residents prefer to offer fiber broadband? So provider preference, we also recently in the last year or so did a similar study and survey for Milwaukee, Oregon. And then we were Hillsborough's consultant to their feasibility study, but that was pretty dated. That's back in about 2017. But I left the results here as well. But a little bit of surprise here, there was less preference for the city as a provider compared to other markets we've been in and compared to, in your case, Comcast. So Comcast came in at 38%, followed by the city at 24%, and then CenturyLink at 19%. So again, it's every market's different, but providing some relative context with some other markets that we've studied this. Would residents switch to a fiber broadband service, and what would the take rate be? So we tested 2 different price points. We tested $60 and $70. We split the survey into 2 cells. So you were either in one or the other, and you only heard one price point if you were a survey participant. So half of the response heard $60, half heard $70. And that was for a gig service. And then we asked, would you definitely subscribe? Probably, might not, probably would not, or definitely would not. And so the left column represents the stated purchase intent at $60 a month, and the right one is the same for $70 a month. So there is some reduction in stated demand as you go higher in the price point, as you would expect. But we had 52% say that they definitely or probably would subscribe if that service were offered for $60 a month, for example. And then among those who said they probably or definitely would subscribe, the pie chart on the right asks why they state that. And again, we have this theme here that's a recurring theme around value, but some households leaning more towards, I want a lower price, other households leaning more towards, I want more capacity, just depending on the type of household. And you can see that bear out for the rationale on the right. So we do, and this is my last slide, but we do then what we call overstatement adjustment to that stated purchase intent. And this is just to empirically over time, noting that when what people say in a survey can be a little bit overstated compared to when they take their wallet out. And so we take 70% of the value of definitely would, 30% of probably, and 10% of might not. That gives us the penetration rates that you see here. So among households that aren't ACP eligible, the take rate at $60 would be about 27%. And at 70, it drops a little bit down to 25%. And then among those households who are ACP eligible, they're paying a lower price and correspondingly their purchase intent increases. You can see the 32% and then basically 27%. So that's what I have. That's a real quick summary of the research. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any questions from counselors? Counselor Phage.
I just look at your survey. How did you get the North Plains residents? I'm trying to see how robust it is. Because a lot of people identify as North Plains, but they live in what folks at work call the hinterlands. Up that are unincorporated areas. They identify North Plains as a place near them, but they don't actually live in the city. And they're using DSL, perhaps HughesNet, making a very low rate of internet speed. And they're kind of hindered, they're kind of stuck by a DSL provider or, some kind of satellite. So how strong is knowing that these are actually North Plains residents versus people that are outside the zone? But they, North Plains is my home because it's the near city.
Yeah, well, a couple of things on that. And I'm just going to look at something really quick here. We use lists where we supplemented to make sure it's only North Plains residents with lists that were purchased. And so it was within city limits. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy or Bill, I believe we had the water file. And we were able to tap into some email addresses and phone numbers from that, if I remember
We
correctly.
pulled from the water, billing. Dave, Eddie says yes. So we pulled from the water bill. It wasn't like an advertised survey, right?
I can't hear the question. I'm sorry.
So we pulled from the water billing. We
Yes,
pulled
yeah.
the data from there. Okay.
And then the other thing we did is I didn't talk about them, but we have screener questions. That's how we refer to them at the beginning of the survey. We do things like make sure that participant's not an employee of the city or any of the incumbents. And the last screener question we ask the participant to confirm that they live within the city limits of North Plains. So, because yeah, you're right, we got to be careful about making sure we stay in the market that we're studying. And so we use screener questions like that. So all the 419 stated that they live within the city limits of North Plains.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Is that the slide deck, would that be something you could share with the council? Email that out?
Yes, sure.
There were some things on there I couldn't quite read, just the size of the text, but I would be really interested in looking at that. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Yeah, and this was just the highlights. I think, there's like 52 slides or something like that in the full report.
Any other feedback? Go ahead, Councilor Pippen.
I have some questions, but this might be very preliminary, just regarding who fixes the fiber if something were to go wrong. Is that something we contract out to another company, or? And again, I know this is very preliminary.
Council Pippen, if the business model if the city identifies and goes with a business model where it is a broadband service provider, it would be responsible for contracting with line repairs or what have you. Not unlike running a water utility. So that's the most involved business model. There are other models that involve we put line in and we lease it out. And there's a bunch of different business models that maybe or maybe not the city gets involved in. But in that case, what you're describing sounds a lot like how we operate our water utility, and we're responsible.
And I'm just asking because I'm looking at City Hillsborough and their highlight program, and just thinking how would that look in North Plains. So I have a lot of questions about it, but I think that's all I have for Dave. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Andy.
Yeah, I just, something I should have said in the preamble, or I should have texted Bill to mention me, because I failed to mention it, was that the reason we did this and commissioned this and worked with the consultant, because this was goal number 3 from the goal setting session. One of the tasks was to do a broadband feasibility study. And we kind of got to it sooner than we would have imagined coming out of that. We've done it 6 months later, but really a lot of that is because of the momentum with different federal funding programs. Washington County and Colpack, our economic development district, are both undertaking different broadband studies. We just kind of got ahead of them because we were talking with Uptown, their firm before they were, and we have North Plains specific data. And we have a fiber connection from Hillsborough School District that tees off into our community that provides a really good opportunity for fiber to the home. So we kind of got on this project a little quicker than we were anticipating, but it is one of the strategic goals, and it's one that Bill and I, in talking with Uptown, we decided let's split it into 2 phases of feasibility. And the first phase would be the market to see, well, what's it sort of look like in North Plains? What is the feasibility? And it's kind of mixed, lower income, potential, higher income potential with the higher capacity. So phase 2 would be looking at a financial model, sort of an infrastructure plan and things like that. So those are the next discussions we'll need to have.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, David. All right, next up are our staff reports, and Robin, you're up first.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. We're in full back to school mode in the library. We have 2 story times a week back inside the library building. We're really excited. We had them here at Jessie Mays over the summer where we could spread out a little more, be outside. Now we're back in the library and they're being very well attended and it's very fun. That is the highlight. I just also want to mention we have a program that didn't make it into my report coming up early next month, which is a professional photography instructor here in Jessie Mays. It's a class about photography, digital photography. So that's coming up early next month. And I've been streamlining my report to you and I have fewer statistics on here, but Eric Danko's worked on a really nice statistical dashboard for the library that I'm including in my board packet. And it has, I'm wondering if the council might want to also see that as part of my report or if that's too much information, but it has some things like our door count, our story time, or our program attendance, our volunteer hours, and things like that. So I'm happy to include it in the report to you, or you can just see it when you're an ex officio or quarterly or your preference. So
I'm glad you brought that up because I like your reports and that they're sort of like bullets, short and sweet and that sort of thing. But there are like sometimes I like looking at those numbers, and I think in a way there's although this is a nice, checkouts, renewals, library visits, great, but sometimes it is interesting. So I don't know how cumbersome that would be for you to plug that in.
Easy as pie, especially because Lori's doing it now for me. But anyway, no, I mean,
It's
not
really easy when someone else
not the
does it, right?
statistics, but Eric is doing the dashboard and including it is very easy. Just a highlight from it is we're illustrating the difference in the circulation out of our library building versus the items we own that are shared among the county. And it used to be pretty close, and since the pandemic, it's quite different. So for example, in August, our circulation from our building or people who are registered at North Plains for using our e-content was 6,817. But then the circulation of our collection was 8,665. So we're a net lender, is what that's called. So that's something that's reflected in this dashboard. So we'll go ahead and include it then and in your future reports. That's all I have. Thank you.
The library visits, it says August 2021. I'm sure that's a typo, right?
Oh.
In our packet, it shows August
So I
2021.
do have it compared to the year before. Does it have both?
So that is, oh, oops, yes,
Comparison.
yes.
I have August
I
2022.
read that. I read that.
So last month, the previous month to that, and then 1 year ago.
Okay.
Is the short and sweet comparison I have here, but then I just have some more details on a dashboard that I can include.
I had another question.
Sure.
Miss Emily, is she teaching ukulele?
Um,
Has she done that?
we are looking into, she wouldn't teach it, I don't believe herself, but we're looking into an instructor for a series, class series.
Okay,
It's not firmed up yet when that would be.
okay, thank you.
You'll be the first to know.
Thank you. Any other questions for Robin?
I guess,
Counselor,
so you're planning on using Jesse Mays again?
Well, this is just an adult program and we'll just be sure to have some good wayfinding, but yes, we are gonna use it for this one program.
Because of the parking.
Right, so we're just including in the registration to park on the perimeter. And we'll have some arrows up and things to help people find how to get in.
You're gonna give us a report on Iceland?
After the meeting, I will, yes. Thank you.
anyone else? Thank you, Robin. Chief,
Good evening. So for August, I guess it's good news that public demand calls went down. Obviously, moving forward, we're dealing with our house as individual. We talk about that work session, so that's still a work in progress. But a couple of two real calls of note. I don't know if you heard, Miss Kim's market was broken into. And the sheriff's office was able to actually catch the culprit in the process, so he got arrested. And also additionally, the other kind of the bigger call was there's a DUI crash onto the walking path there. Just on the to the west, correction, the east of Stewart Lane on West Union. So, and that driver was not a resident of North Lane, but he was arrested as well. Aside from that, again, it's good news that public demand calls are down for August, which was good, but our self-initiated is still up. We used overtime is down, people aren't signing up. Again, there's a plethora of overtime at the sheriff's office right now. So 33 hours were used. And going in September, this is, I know we keep talking about Barters, but he's Deputy Barters is full-time in North Plains now, beginning of the month, so he's doing really well.
good feedback from residents too. They like it. They have good feedback. Any questions for Chief Jackson? Councilor Piven?
Chief, would you be able to provide a little bit more insight into what the citations involves? I see there's 3, and I'm just thinking about, there's probably a citation issued for that DUI driver. There's probably a citation issued for Miss Kim's market, right? That's 2. Or am I completely missing the mark there?
So the citations are traffic violation citations. The arrests and stuff, since the jail, it's not completely back to normal, but we're able to take the jail, so they didn't get citations for that. In fact, it's interesting, depending on how you look at it, that the DUI crash was actually a county call somehow, even though the walking path is city. It's this weird thing. So Barters took the crash, and Schutz is back at the sheriff's office. I don't know if you guys knew that. Small world, Schutz came back to the sheriff's office a little while ago, so he's back out working. And I know he wants to put back into North Plains, but I told him he has to wait till it's open. He just missed it when Barters got it. So he actually took the DUI. So that actually, any of those sites have ever went to county. So again, they helped us out with that. And like I said, with the crime of the burglary and all the criminal mischief and stuff that he did in the thefts, that was all laudable with no citations. So the citations are purely infractions for driving.
I see, because and the reason why I'm asking is I'm thinking back a few months to the community open house, and we had residents come in, and you were so kind to be on the spot with everyone's rapid fire questions, and thinking about how a lot of residents were saying, you know, I see people blowing the stop sign, I see speeding, et cetera, et cetera. And then I look at this and I think about, we've only done 21 traffic stops in 1 month, and then seeing that 14–15% of those are ending in citations, and what that looks like. And again, I feel like I ask this question every few months during council reports, but I see opportunities in our city, and I was just hoping that you could shed some light on to maybe why we don't see more traffic stops or more proactive policing regarding traffic laws in our city.
Well, I think it depends on what you consider proactive policing, because I do believe driving around to all the neighborhoods is proactive policing. That's not necessarily sitting on stop signs or sitting and doing running radar on the street. So, and I can tell you as well as, I know I've been doing that a lot lately. There are, again, it's hard to see police. You see the police car and you tend to slow down. And so there's a range that we're using to pull over, and each deputy is a little different, along with where our ranges for where we're going to issue someone a citation or not for the violation. And again, it's mostly proactive, or it's mostly educational stuff. So I'm stopping a lot more than what I'm actually issuing citations for. That's in general. So yes, there could be, I'm not going to, there probably could be some more some more traffic stops, not necessarily citations. I haven't boiled that down to how many that is. You know, we're looking at less than one a day. So yeah, I could probably push up a bit.
Right, and I don't want to get hung up on numbers, but I'm thinking ahead, right? We want to potentially bring a police levy forward. Do residents feel like they're getting that value? And then thinking about previous feedback from our constituents and wanting, you know, more of that proactive police stop type work, and then seeing the numbers. And that's why I just wanted to get some clarity on that. And obviously I know you have a very dynamic day, and I don't want to micromanage any of what you should be doing, but I was just hoping to get some more insight onto that. So we can table it for now. I just wanted to kind of hear a day in your life on what that looks like and other deputies. So that's all I have for now, and we can always circle back next month. So thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, Chief. All right, Bill, you're up next.
Finance Department report for September for the month of through the month of August for the current fiscal year. We'll try to hit the high points for you, but so in this report and moving forward, it's a little bit of a detail, but there was an error in the budget accounting settings whereby the budget numbers, the total budget numbers for the year in the report last month were reporting 2022. And I had to work with our accounting software company on getting that fixed. So all of the numbers for budget for the full year in this report and moving forward are accurate or reflecting fiscal year 23. And a little bit more detail behind that. We were, of course, on a biennial budget, so we have a 2-year budget technically that you've all approved, and we're working with. And so the budget numbers for the full year throughout the monthly report from finance is what budget's left over, what budget there is for fiscal year 23 that you approved, as well as what's left over from fiscal year 22 that wasn't spent. So some categories are going to look like they have really big budgets. That's because money was saved in fiscal year 22. Some budgets are going to look like they're leaner, and that's because for whatever reason, and there aren't many of those, and those will be subject to a supplemental budget. We'll talk about that. But some categories do have what might look lean, and that's just because expenditures in those categories, as we reported in previous months, has been higher than expected. So we'll highlight this. So I'll go ahead and say the general fund is kind of below budget overall for the full biennium and for fiscal year 23 so far. Not a ton of activity through August, the end of August, so in July and August. So nothing crazy to report. As far as individual departments, most departments and most expense items compared to budget are below or near. So most departments and their expenses are fine compared to where they should be, if not a little bit below. The one area that we know will come back with in a supplemental budget will be materials and services for community development department, and that a lot of that has to do with just the sheer cost of UGP planning and the time it's been taking, and frankly how difficult it is or was to predict and budget for that process. So, but we'll come back. That'll be part of a supplemental budget that Andy and I will be working on bringing back this fall. So we'll kind of have more details about that when we have revised estimates and a proposed amendment to that to avoid that going over budget. But that category is not over budget yet. It's just been higher than expected to date. But the rest of the departments and their expenses, for the most part, are out of below budget. Nothing, not a lot of activity in the streets fund through August, so there's nothing really notable there to report other than the tough for households. The updated tough for households has went into effect in July, so revenues in that category are reflecting households paying the higher tough as a result of the methodology update that was adopted. The commercial tough rate is going to be implemented and will be seen on business water bills in November. So we're preparing a letter to go out. Actually, the letter was done today, and we're ready to get it out to businesses to let them know in November their tough rates are going to go up based on the new methodology. So that's coming up in November. The water fund, most notable story there is just that the hot August water usage was higher than expected. Water revenues for the year are looking really, really good, but of course those go down on a monthly basis during the wet months. But the fiscal year is off to a higher start on the revenue side of things because of that. So that's kind of a big story there. Overdue and aging water balances. August was a good month. We a little over $2,000 in overdue balances in the city were paid current, and 43 different overdue accounts were settled up. So we're on a downward trajectory. We don't have at this point and haven't had for 2 or 3 months now any balances over 120 days out. We are consistently seeing fewer 72-hour notices for shutoffs, and we're seeing quick resolution to accounts when they do go, quicker resolution when they do go into that status. So I guess the bottom line is I think we like to credit the new payment system to help for helping with that. And letting people being able to set up auto payment with credit card, which wasn't possible at all in the old system. A lot of people, if they don't have things on auto pay, they lose track of it very easily. That's what we found. And so the new system does kind of let those folks get locked into an auto pay however they want to do it, and then they forget about it. And it's working. And so that's what we're seeing. And we've just gotten really good feedback over the new system. And we hope everybody here is having a good experience with it too. But so far, I don't know that we've gotten any complaints other than just, can you help me get this done? Because it's a new system, but it's been working. It seems to be working. So that's the update on the overdue balances. Anything else going on? Fiscal year 21 audit process is nearly done. We're in the very, very final days of that. I don't know when a report to you all will be scheduled, but we'll let you know when that's going to be ready. We're going to be working to schedule a fiscal year 2022 audit as soon as possible after, and that hopefully will be getting kicked off in a few weeks, maybe a month. And that will be, as a result, be done on a fairly similar time frame as they've traditionally been done. So I think COVID delays and all of that are going to be worked out in the systems with the city audits. Our URA is still backed up on audits, and so we're working with them to get those done as quickly as possible. No building permits with SDCs and TDTs from Bryn Hill this past month. I just heard today we have a whole slew of new ones coming in, so we'll be busy. So that's dated information as of 4 days, so that's good news. Already spoke about the tough rollout in November for businesses. So that's pretty much it for me. I would say.
No questions for Bill?
Are we in the gas tax?
Andy, have you seen the recent gas tax report?
What was the question? How's the gas tax looking?
Yeah, are we matching what we estimated to bring in?
No, the high gas prices this year definitely affected the demand and sales.
Well, how are we gonna adjust the projects accordingly? Was there kind of back burners, just cancel them or postpone longer or?
No, we don't need to change anything there. Part of the project can be supplemented by the TUF, especially now that the revenue is projected to be higher there. Part of them can be supplemented by transportation SDCs. And then if you remember too, the #1 project on the list, the West Union Pedestrian Path, we got a state grant for that project for 1.2 million. So that helps tremendously. That helps fill a lot of gap.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you.
Thank you.
The 3J planning report is in there. Are there any questions for Andy or Bill on that report? There's a lot there. Hearing none. Then the current land use application is listed. Any questions there? All right, now we're at Andy's manager report, city manager report. September 2nd, September 9th, he's kind of consolidated any of that. Andy, is there anything from your report that you wanted to highlight or anything that's new that you want to share with us this time?
Yes, I guess a few things. I know the Public Works crew is going to start work on Pacific Purple Park, removing the equipment, I think this week. And I got confirmation today from Brenda at the Christian church that they do want that equipment, so we can at least repurpose it. So we'll work to coordinate something over the next few days. Our planner, I guess this is segues nicely from the last subject. Our planner, Steve Miller, starts on Thursday. I'll be back from this conference then, so that'll be his first day in the office. And I already went to a good digital permitting session today that I'll give him something to follow up on when he gets in. So we're excited about that. And then also Doug, who I've mentioned a few times, Doug Keene, our rare volunteers there. I know some of you have met him in person at a chamber meeting, but Doug will be a regular at chamber meetings, and we'll get him to a city council meeting. And but he's on week 2 right now. And I don't know what Monday brought for him because I'm not there, but I know his first week was pretty productive and he got to have a lot of conversations with people. So we're excited that Doug's joined our staff for 11 months.
Happy to be here.
Glad you're here. Any questions for Andy? Counselor Smith?
Where are we at on the public works director?
Number 4, on Thursday, when I get back there's some applications to review with the city engineer and Public Works, one of the Public Works team members. So I think we have 5 applications. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Try to schedule some interviews, probably within the next 2 weeks to line up with folks' schedules if we have some that are worthy there. So that's the latest. Thanks for bringing that up because I did mean to mention that. It's one of the things I'm doing on Thursday when I get back.
So how the applicants look? That are applying.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember where everyone's from, but I think at least 4 of them have like a water distribution certification, which we're looking for. So that's, and they all 4 or 5 of them, however many there were, they all have experience in water treatment, water distribution. That's their, in many ways, been their primary job. And that's the, there's other characteristics and qualities we want to look for, I want to look for, but that from a technical aspect is from a utility aspect, that's going to be the top one.
Any other questions from counselors? Counselor Sheldon?
Yeah, I thought maybe you might get a chance when you return and put a bug in Sarah Wilson. I believe it's Sarah Wilson's there about the playlist she never provided.
Yes, I will do that. Thanks for the reminder.
Can we play that before the city council? Get ready to rumble.
I'm going to amend my submission too while we're doing that. So yeah, thanks for the reminder.
All right. Anything else? Any council reports? Councilor Sheldon?
Yeah, I'll just report that the Metropolitan Area Communications Commission continues to negotiate with Ziply Fiber and seeking an agreement. That agreement's still forthcoming. There's been a change in legal counsel on behalf of the MAC board, so there hasn't been any decisions yet, but that will be something that will come before each of the 11 jurisdictions. So that's just FYI.
Councilor Capron, you were at the economic development. Do you have anything to report on that?
Yeah, during that particular meeting, there was a presentation from a consultant regarding the Far West Fiber proposed site. And when I had asked the question of what is it specifically being marketed for, there wasn't anything concrete set in stone, but again, just Far West has their facility, would do a lot line adjustment, and then a spec building, which is yet to be determined what it would be, but it would potentially have 60 truck bays, which is pretty large. Bill might have a little bit more to add on to that as well, but it was a lot of good information just regarding that site and some future planning.
Thank you, Councilor Pippen. Yeah, so that was, he's the broker actually who represents, oh, no, that's okay. He's actually kind of working as a consultant in that case. But I've seen the sales material, leasing material or marketing material for the site, and they're really going after any number of different things. It's the only 20-acre site within 2 or 3 minutes of Highway 26, of a major highway, and the Portland metro region of that single consolidated size. So they're getting queries, and they're from a number of different directions, but they're not like marketing a specific thing like Councilor Bateman said. So we'll learn more soon, but I think what they'll probably do is have the Far West facility, like I think you've seen on the plan, and then some sort of larger building next to it, but that's the one that's far less certain probably what it will be. So we'll see. I'd be shocked if it was anything very distribution heavy, just because we're on the far end of the metro. If we were kind of closer to I-5, that might get a little more play, so to speak. But we'll see. We'll see.
Anything else? Great, thanks. I attended the planning commission meeting. They opened up and continued the public hearing for the EOA. Somehow I was recommended for the Hillsborough School District strategic plan group. I'm not really sure who threw my name in the hat, but I did attend my first meeting. So they're going through and they're starting the process to look at the strategic plan for like the next 5 years. So we had our first meeting this past week, so I attended that. And I think that was it for me. So anything else last minute? All right, if nothing else, anything, Andy, Doug, anything that you thought of me to share?
Just don't fly Spirit Airlines. That would be my only advice.
They charge you
told you that.
$2,000, right?
Oh God, yeah.
All right. All right, well then I'll go ahead and adjourn the city council meeting at 8:02. Good night, everyone.
President.
Good night.
Night.
Now you want to sit down?